If SARS-CoV-2 naturally spilled over in Wuhan, it's a heck of a coincidence. It means that SARS-CoV-2 reached Wuhan undetected and spilled over basically at the front door of China's premier coronavirus research facility without leaving behind any infected animals. WIV scientists who have been studying coronaviruses for 20 plus years never expected to have one emerge in Wuhan. Based on the research, they expected a virus like SARS-CoV-2 to emerge 1,600 miles away in a rural area of southern China. Laying aside those coincidences for a moment, if SARS-CoV-2 emerged naturally, it really seems to undermine the rationale for projects like Global Virome Project. Governments have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on researchers collecting viruses from caves and other remote areas, but it doesn't seem to have resulted in us being any better prepared. So, Dr. Peters, is there some other part of the human-animal interface we should be focusing on?
I think you meant Parker?
Parker, I'm sorry.
Well,
it's been a long day, sir. I'm sorry.
I have to admit, when I first was briefed about the Global Virome Project very specifically, actually at a conference we hosted at Texas A&M several years ago, it looked impressive. But the more I thought about it, and I talked to other people, including actually Christian Anderson was briefed the following year, and although there could be some merit to something like that, I think the available dollars that we have would be much better used at basic public health, animal health, diagnostics, surveillance, reporting systems, particularly in low, middle-income countries. And that's where some of these viruses are really going to emerge, in the low, middle-income countries and disease hotspots. And we really need to use our aid dollars, because some of this was not aid. It was using aid, development dollars, U.S. aid. And I think the objectives of our aid dollars ought to be going to development in low, middle-income countries, and then specifically for public health and animal health capacities.
Yeah. So just as a sidebar question, we've been studying and working on Ebola. Do we have any of these type labs set up in Africa that maybe we should be concerned about viruses escaping from, or that you know of, Dr. Parker?
Certainly I'm not sure we have actually U.S.-funded labs, but we need collaborations on the African continent with the scientists there to be on the ground. And I would say education is very important, and having an opportunity to collaborate with universities and having twinning opportunities with U.S. universities and universities that are in low, middle-income countries specifically, so that we can actually work on degree education. We do a lot of training, but training's maybe necessary but not sufficient, and what we can do to actually grow the intellectual capacity in some of these countries will be very...
But no labs that you know of that are similar to Wuhan that you're aware of?
On the African continent?
Yes, sir.
No. Well,
closer to the source of Ebola. And
South Africa has a long history and has a very distinguished scientific record in South Africa.
Right, thank you. I'm going to shift gears. As we had mentioned, academia will play a large role in bioattribution investigations. However, academics can be subject to pressure from colleagues, funding agencies, and irate members of the public who disagree with their findings. It is essential that dissenting voices not be censored or intimidated. How can Congress foster collaboration and data sharing between researchers and others in academia under those understandings, and what initiatives are currently constructive and what's non-constructive? And I'll direct that back to Dr. Parker, but if anyone would like to chime in 2 minutes.
Sure. Thank you. One, I think continue just recognition of the importance of academia and university-based research, and how university-based research needs to be fully supported, and the life sciences need to be fully supported. So I think just that recognition and continued discussion will be very helpful. Certainly funding is absolutely necessary. It can't be done without resources.
Yeah, but we see oftentimes funding directs the outcome and sometimes changes the hypothesis from the very beginning, or at least by the end date. So I know we've beat a horse here for the last couple of hours that we've been on this hearing, but I think Americans and my constituents want to make sure that the United States government investigates the origin of COVID-19 that took so many lives, and it's not negating the understanding and empathy, sympathy for the lost individuals and the pain that the families felt and the strain it put on the hospitals, our healthcare workers, and whatnot. but coming to the conclusion of what happened in Wuhan, how it escaped or how it occurred naturally is very, very important. I think personally that it escaped from the lab. It wasn't natural, and it was in my initial comments. I'm glad to see what GAO has put forward. I want to wish you guys as researchers the best of luck and as you participate and collaborate on the origins of COVID-19 so we can get an answer, so we can keep this tragedy from happening. We're never going to stop a pandemic from happening. My best friend's a doctor. He told me we were due for a pandemic, and he wasn't surprised when this one happened to sweep across the globe. But to find out that it may have been manufactured, it may have escaped the lab is kind of alarming to so many people. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.